Hi folks, so this is the second chapter of our Python exploration, and here we dip into two topics: the use of Flask as a web framework for Python, and pandas as a convenient way to access and manipulate data in a Python environment. These are in the channel's GitHub repo, and I'll link them in the description. Here's the start of our heatmap application. Right now it's just displaying some fixed points around the San Francisco area. So you can see right there is our little heat map. It's just 8 or 9 GPS coordinates. And we can go a little further. And this is using Google Maps. And so I'll explain that a little bit further as we go along. And so let's first look at the Flask application. So it's typically the application, which is this web framework, and then the actual HTML file. And I am just going to go to, so I'm using my site, that's just the default. And if I bring up, this is a default name, flaskapp.py, and that's the application right there. And there's not a lot to it. The only thing we added from the last tutorial is this render template library, which is being used to render the HTML file. So when you typically have more than one route. So these are routes through which we're going through making a GET request through HTTP, through the protocol. And this is just a function, definition of a function in Python. And all it's doing is it's just calling the function render template on index.html. So it's just displaying this HTML file, and that's all it's doing. Now here I have a very useful, so I'll put it up here, useful reference on Flask on Geeks for Geeks. So there's a lot of references there, and so this is just a very quick intro. There's a lot of information here on Geeks for Geeks. Flask is a lightweight and flexible web framework for Python. It's designed to make getting started with web development quick and easy, while still being powerful enough to build complex web applications. It's more explicit than Django's framework, and it's easier to learn. It's lightweight, can be used with any database, and it's great for small to medium projects. So you can look at that. I recommend you go to that site, and there's all kinds of information there, including tutorials and examples and everything else. So I'm in the file section, and I just go to the templates folder, and then I just bring in, so it has to be, it's just a requirement of this framework. It has to be in a folder called templates, and it's called index.html. Didn't have to call it that. And so all this is doing is, so this is the HTML, and this is bringing in, it's the Google API, so Google Maps API. And here you do need a key, so you need to go to the Google Developer Console to get a key. So I had put it out because I don't want to display the key publicly. And all you're doing here, and a lot of this is JavaScript, but down here is the body. So in the body, what we're doing is on load, we're calling initmap, and we have a div element, which is just a kind of a labeled area of the page, which we're calling map. And on load, we call this JavaScript subroutine function called initmap, and that's defined up here. And it's creating a map, which is just an instance of Google Maps, giving it a zoom and a center, which we're just centering it on San Francisco. And then we have, this is a JavaScript array, we're calling heatmap data, of latitude, longitude objects. So they're particular objects that are just used in Google Maps. And I just put a bunch of them in there just for demo purposes. And then we create this, it's called a visualization layer. It's not the same as maps. But you just, again, you're creating a new object, assigning it to each heat map, and giving it the data, which is this JavaScript array. And then we just use setMap to add it to the map. and that's all we're doing. So that's what's being loaded in that Flask application. And here's a nice reference, introduction to pandas and how you can use it. It's on pandas.pydata, so I'd encourage you to take a look at that. Finally, as an additional use of pandas, we're taking the heat map data from traffic statistics that we got from Kaggle. So it's a site that has a lot of interesting data. And so it's traffic incidents, and it includes the GPS coordinates of each incident. But we found the file was too large to store on our free Pythonanywhere account. So what I did was I wrote a Python routine that uses pandas, which is this second thing I wanted to introduce. It's a Python library for manipulating data, reading, writing, and manipulating data. And so it allows us to select just the records from a small GPS range. So this file was huge, and I just cut it down to a smaller file. And I can just describe to you what that looks like. And here I just called it select records. Again, ending it in .py is a Python. Means it's a Python routine. So here's select records. This is all we're doing, and we're importing pandas, and we're calling it PD. And this is reading that accidents file. It's a comma separated file. So it's just a series of each record, and the field in each record is separated by a comma. Reading it, and here we're storing it in. So this is the first common data structures in Panda. It's a data frame. It's usually a two-dimensional structure. And we're just saying create a data frame and just include these two columns. So there were just two columns. There are a bunch of columns, and we just took the latitude and longitude columns out of this data. So it's going to be just a bunch of rows and two columns. And this we didn't do. Here we're taking a subset of it, and what the subset is doing, these are conditionals. So we're really just taking, we want the latitude and longitude to be between latitude between 41 and 42, longitude between -76 and -75. And again, this is just a conditional. And so it's just creating a new data frame with just these particular records. So just the column values that are within this range. So we get about 5,000 records. And then finally, .to CSV. We're just writing it out to a new CSV. So it's just remarkable how quickly you can do this, and you can read and write data. So you can see why this would be, if you were to do that just with Python code, it would be, I think, a lot more cumbersome. So in the next video, what we're going to do is we're just going to use this local accidents, and we'll show how to actually display the real heat map from this CSV. So thanks for watching.